Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back into the Fantasy Headliners. Your boy Kyle here as we continue our march to opening kickoff. That is right, we are just over a week away from the first regular season game of the 2022 NFL season. And hit that like button for me if you love some in-season content from the Fantasy Headliners. The waiver wire show on Monday will be coming next week. Start and sit rankings. We got revamped content, and we're going to be bringing you even more in-season content this year than ever before. So get ready, hit the like button. But before we do that, there's still some of you out there right now that are trying to draft teams. And today's video is going to be talking about, as of right now, based on the current ADP, the most likely players to bust in each of the first 8 rounds. And I'll talk about that here in just a moment because I have a giveaway that I need to do that has taken some time, unfortunately. A while back, I tried to give away Jake's Nick Chubb jersey. Y'all didn't bite. I tried it again. Y'all didn't bite. So I tried a third time, and lo and behold, we hit the like goal on my last video. Appreciate you all. And because of that, the Nick Chubb jersey that's been hanging up on Jake's wall forever is now going to belong to my man, Walter John McGowan. Congratulations, Walter John. You are going to be getting Jake's Nick Chubb jersey. Appreciate your support here on the videos, and congratulations again being our winner for that jersey. But like I mentioned a moment ago, all right, the most likely to bust in the first round, in the second round, in the third round, everything like that. So we're going to go over 8 rounds because really by the time you get towards the 7th, 8th round, is anybody really a bust? It's hard. It's those earlier rounds where guys really can be a bust for you and really hurt your team. Now, I want to just preface this video with, this is not a must-avoid video. This is not a this guy sucks video. This is just taking a look at the current ADP, current situations, and trying to determine who might be some of the riskiest picks in each round. That's all this video is. So obviously, if you don't agree that someone could be a bust, we might have different definitions of bust, and we will cover that going through this video. And we're going to have some guys that you're like, yep, absolutely 100%. And we're going to have some guys who you're like, no, not at all, not close, Kyle. Let me know down in the comments below which ones you agree with most and which ones you agree with the least. But we're going to dive into it right now. Let's take a look at the first round. Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Devontae Adams, and Stephon Diggs. That's the ADP for the first round. Who's going to be the most likely to bust in the first round? Well, I think you got to take a look at the guy that has missed a significant amount of games over the last 2 seasons, and you now have to spend the 2nd overall pick to get. Now, the reason we're drafting Christian McCaffrey at number 2 overall is because there aren't too many people outside of Jonathan Taylor that matches his upside. So if you're drafting McCaffrey at number 2 overall, you're hoping that you get 16, 17 games from him and that you get that ceiling that we saw 2 and 3 years ago. But when you take a look at a guy that has missed so much time, it is difficult to say, I'm going to invest the number 2 overall pick. Even if you were to take away 4 or 5 games from Christian McCaffrey, at that point, his ADP in terms of return on investment, you're taking a look at him moving from like an early first round to like a mid or a late first round pick. So that's why, of course, he's going to be very risky. Now, a guy that you might not agree with at all is Cooper Kupp at the 1.05. Now, the reason I'm going with Cooper Kupp at the 1.05 is because drafting Cooper Kupp at 1.05 means that you are drafting him over some running backs that are going to give you some great volume this season. Does Cooper Kupp potentially have the ceiling over all of those guys? A Dalvin Cook, a Najee Harris, a Joe Mixon. Of course, he's coming off one of the greatest wide receiver seasons in the history of the NFL. What are the chances that he duplicates that season? What are the chances is that, yeah, he takes a step back, and his step back might still be first round value, but when you look at it and you say, man, I spent a first round pick on a wide receiver, which especially if you took him at like the 1.05, which means you didn't get another pick until the middle of the second round. So maybe your running back depth ended up being hurt. Maybe your upside at the running back position ended up maybe being hurt. Maybe you missed out on some wide receivers a little bit later in your draft because you already had Cooper Kupp and there would have been some better upside there. That's why with Cooper Kupp, I'm saying, hey, if you take him this early, you just have to be prepared to understand that your running backs might not look as good as you would like. And because of that, it could end up hurting you throughout the season. So Cooper Kupp wouldn't be a bust for me because of his performance. It would be a bust for me because if he doesn't return middle of the first round value, you've probably put yourself in a position where your running backs have been in a bad spot all season long. Plus, you're also gambling on Cooper Kupp having a better season than Justin Jefferson, and I get why we would look at that and say, well, of course he will. Look at the season he's coming off of. But Justin Jefferson, and don't kill me, Cooper Kupp truthers, Justin Jefferson is a better overall, all-around wide receiver than Cooper Kupp, and he's going to be in an offense this year that's going to be slinging it like crazy. Whew. We could see some big Justin Jefferson numbers this year. Now, what about the second round? Second round kicking it off at 2.01 with DeAndre Swift, Travis Kelce, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, CeeDee Lamb, not DD Lamb. That's an inside joke if you saw the last video. Saquon Barkley, Javonte Williams, Deebo Samuel, Josh Allen, Tyreek Hill, and Leonard Fournette. I'm going to leave out one of the most obvious choices of Alvin Kamara. I think a lot of you are going to comment and say Alvin Kamara would be the most likely bet because of his pending legal issues. But like we've said on the videos a few times already over the last couple of weeks, his hearing has been pushed back all the way into the middle of the season. There's a chance that it's going to be pushed back again. At that point, he ends up playing all season. The NFL is not going to hand down any type of a suspension until the legal process plays out. So Alvin Kamara right now, to me, in the middle of the second, is actually a pretty darn good pick. In fact, if you get 16, 17 games from Alvin Kamara and you spent the 1.05 on Cooper Kupp and you were able to get an Alvin Kamara in the second round, well, you're probably off to a pretty good start, and that throws out everything that I said from the last segment. But when you take a look at it, the number of guys in this area, who do I think has the biggest chance to bust? It's CeeDee Lamb. I love CeeDee Lamb as a player. I think he is extremely gifted and extremely talented. I don't think the Dallas Cowboys know how to utilize CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is not an alpha wide receiver on the outside that you want fighting with cornerback ones all game long. Now, can he do that? Yeah, absolutely he can, and he will be good. But he will be great if you move him around the formation, put him in the slot, put him on the outside, put him in motion. Get creative with CeeDee Lamb and put him in opportunities to win after the catch. That is where CeeDee Lamb is the best. When he gets the football in his hands and he has room to work with, make some guys miss, use that explosiveness. That is why, for me personally, if I see him out in the slot all season long, or not out in the slot, but out on the outside all season long, he's going to have a good year, but he's not going to have a great year. He could have a great year if he was utilized like the Rams utilized Cooper Kupp. When you see him in the slot, when you see him on the outside, when they run the go routes with him, when they take him deep down the field, when they let him win in the middle of the field. To see him in that type of a role for the Dallas Cowboys would be best case scenario. I don't know if Dallas is capable of making that happen for CeeDee Lamb, though, and that is my big concern with him this year. In the third round, Mark Andrews, Mike Evans, Ezekiel Elliott, Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown, James Conner, T. Higgins, Kyle Pitts, Michael Pittman, Patrick Mahomes, David Montgomery, Justin Herbert. Really, my biggest concern here, I wasn't going to put Cowboys in back-to-back, because, Cowboys fans, you already deal with enough. I don't want to do that to you. Ezekiel Elliott right now at the 3.03. I'm starting to move off more and more. The injury to Smith on the offensive line, that is really worrying me. Not going to lie. Was loving Zeke Elliott's, was loving what he had and what he offered at his ADP this year. I think he could still have a good year, but I think some of that ceiling we thought we could get back with Zeke this year is going to be gone with that injury on the offensive line. The offensive line is hurting right now. We've heard that Dallas is looking for potential trades. I can't risk it with Zeke now at the 3.03, but there's a guy that I have been off of more all off season. And unfortunately, he's a guy that I absolutely love, and it's David Montgomery. I mean, the Bears haven't looked too bad in the preseason so far, but it's only the preseason. I'm not buying into that right this minute. David Montgomery, for me, at the end of the third round would be a much better buy if I could get him moved back into the fourth and I could get him as my RB3 if I came off with a little bit more of a balanced start. But David Montgomery concerns me because, yes, that offensive line hasn't looked awful in the preseason. But when we get into the regular season and you're going to have pass rushers from the Green Bay Packers, and you're going to have pass rushers from the Minnesota Vikings and Detroit's revamped defense and Aiden Hutchinson coming at you, that is going to cause problems. That is going to leave limited holes, limited upside for David Montgomery on the ground. Is Justin Fields taking a step forward? If he is, perfect. That's what we need. If he's not, we've got issues. Are the wide receivers going to be enough? Not only do they not have great wide receivers, they've got Gabriel Davis, that's fine, but we run into an issue where now they're dealing with injuries on a consistent basis as well. That Bears offense could end up being in shambles this year, and if it is, you're going to have issues getting consistent production out of David Montgomery. Heading into the fourth round, Breece Hall, DJ Moore, Cam Akers, George Kittle, Terry McLaurin, Travis Etienne Jr., Waddle, Deontay Johnson, Mike Williams, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, and Lamar Jackson. I've got two for you in this round. One we've talked about quite a bit. The second one is Breece Hall. Earlier in the offseason, when Breece Hall was newly drafted by the New York Jets and everybody was losing their mind about it, I reminded everybody that Michael Carter had a very good 2021 season, and I would not just write him off. In fact, I could really see just a 60-40 split in favor of Breece Hall because they will continue to keep Michael Carter in the game plan. The Breece Hall blow up was absolutely on. People loved him. The top running back coming out of college this past year. Everybody's on him at the New York Jets. And then all of a sudden, over the last week, we hear rumblings out of Jets camp that Michael Carter is still a guy that will be in the game plan very often. Now, do I believe Michael Carter by the end of the season will still be the RB1? I do not. Will he be to begin the season? Absolutely. Could be. Breece Hall could still get 60% of the backfield touches, though. If he does that, and he doesn't necessarily have all the upside that we would like, using a pick on him to be like your RB2 in a more balanced approach, especially in the fourth round, is going to cause issues. Because for me, Breece Hall is more of a low-end running back 2 this season. The offensive line has it taking a step forward. What's going to happen with Zach Wilson? When will he be ready to go? How much is Michael Carter actually going to get touches? Those are all questions that don't go in Breece Hall's favor. A lot of people are trying to draft him as their RB2 right now. I absolutely hate that for your team. I would rather have him as my RB3 and then keep my fingers crossed that he gets better and better as the season goes on. Cam Akers, we don't need to talk much about this one. You all know that we have issues with Cam Akers. We don't agree with drafting him this season just because of the return from the Achilles injury. I mean, when you take a look at a guy like a Marlon Mack coming off an Achilles injury, he was recently let go. He has not been able to catch on with the team since his Achilles injury. It's happened to a ton of guys, right? They have the Achilles injury. They're just not the same afterwards. We didn't see the same Cam Akers when he came back last year in the playoffs. And a lot of people are going to be like, well, he came back so quick. That's all right that he came back so quick. I get that, but there was no burst. There was no elusiveness. If he didn't have the hole, he wasn't getting much. For me, we got to have better. We got to have better this season, and I don't think Cam Akers is going to provide that. They're even saying right now at a Rams camp might not be 100% healthy. Darrell Henderson is getting a lot of touches right now. Darrell Henderson is going to be back and helping fantasy teams this year. In the fifth round, Elijah Mitchell, DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, A.J. Dillon, Allen Robinson, Jerry Jeudy, Joey B. Burrow, Kyler Murray, Dalton Schultz, Brandon Cooks, J.K. Dobbins, and Antonio Gibson. Now, J.K. Dobbins obviously kind of in the news right now. Ian Rappaport again reporting that he might not be ready for week 1. If that happens and he ends up missing significant time to start the season, then yeah, he should be included in this list. But this one's kind of a no-brainer. Even with the unfortunate injury to Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson is still the most likely to bust here. Hoping that at some point in time, Robinson can get back this season. When will he be 100% though? When will he be able to get back into the game plan? When I take a look at Antonio Gibson, there just isn't enough upside for me. I did bump him up just slightly in my rankings, knowing that we're going to be missing Brian Robinson to start the year, but Gibson is still going to be underutilized based on the potential that he could offer. Heading into the 6th round, we got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marquise Brown, Jalen Hurts, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Damian Harris, Gabe Davis, who I'm loving this year, Amari Cooper, TJ Hawkinson, Juju Smith, Schuster, Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, Darnell Mooney. Michael Thomas has remained in the 6th round almost all offseason. That has taken him from being a guy that I could see as a potential bust to now better value-wise. So he's not going to be the guy I include here. It's going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Definitely could see him losing his job at some point this season. And if he doesn't lose his starting job, seeing this as a guy that just doesn't return the value that this is a guy that's going in the 6th round that 2 years ago, people were using a first overall pick on. And it's not like he's had injuries that have derailed his career. It's not like that we're saying, oh, he's going to back down on his production because he's had so many touches. No, he hasn't. He's just not the guy that people anticipated him being in the Kansas City offense. Into the 7th round now. Adam Thielen, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert if you're feeling fancy, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, Devin Singletary, Dak Prescott, Cordero Patterson, Rashad Bateman, Hunter Renfrow, Elijah Moore, and Kareem Hunt. The 7th round ADP right now, this is another one. It's Miles Sanders. He even came out himself and said, don't draft me in fantasy this year. We're seeing Boston Scott get quite a bit of work. We're seeing Kenneth Gainwell get some work as well. They're going to rotate backs in that offense. They're probably going to throw it a lot more this year than they have in past. If that happens and Jalen Hurts just doesn't take a step forward, that's just going to make the run game even more difficult on these guys. And heading into the 8th round, Chase Edmonds, Rashad Penny, Tony Pollard, Dawson Knox, Devonta Smith, Zach Ertz, Aaron Rodgers, Ramondre Stevenson, DeAndre Hopkins, Kenneth Walker, Brandon Ayuk, and Matthew Stafford. A lot of really good values. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the value, when you get this late in draft, it's really hard to find a quote-unquote bust because the value is becoming so good at this point of the draft that if you were to miss somebody for a significant amount of time, it's not going to kill your team. But if there is one guy I had to list as the most likely bust, it would be DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I'm all for drafting DeAndre Hopkins later in your draft. My problem is the way I've seen people draft him. People are taking DeAndre Hopkins as like their wide receiver 2, and they're like, okay, it's fine. When he comes back, I'll have a wide receiver 1. Or they're going real wide receiver 0, and they're taking him as their wide receiver 1 because they're going like 3 running backs. They're going a tight end. Maybe they go 4 running backs, a tight end, and then also grabbing like a quarterback along the way. Taking him as your wide receiver 2 more than likely is the real big issue that I've seen with it. And the reason I'm seeing an issue with that is, number one, last season, the numbers before he got hurt were not great. You did see this. You did start to see some of those things that would preach, hey, there is some potential regression coming from DeAndre Hopkins. So you've got that. Obviously, he's getting a little bit older. He's going to miss the first 6 games of the season. When he comes back, how do we know he's going to be the wide receiver 1? How do we know that for sure? I don't think there is a way to know it for sure. And that's one of the reasons why, for those of you that are drafting DeAndre Hopkins and saying, man, this is a guy that I think is going to be the guy on my team when he comes back, be careful of that, because if he's not the guy, if he doesn't provide wide receiver 1 numbers, if he is more along the lines of a wide receiver 2 now, and you drafted him in the 8th round hoping that he would make a significant impact on your team. That is where things become an issue with DeAndre Hopkins. And that is why in the 8th round, when it's really hard to say somebody could be a bust, I look at it and say he might be the most likely bust. But ladies and gentlemen, we are closing in again on the regular season. So make sure you hit that like button and subscribe here to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, you need to do so right now, because I promise you, you are not going to regret it. Hit the like button for me. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the guys that I listed here today. Is there somebody in a certain round that you think is a little bit better chance of being a bust than somebody else? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm going to get out of here, though. All of you stay safe and healthy, and I will catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. Y'all stuck on 3rd down. Your content's plain Jane. Headliners on top now. We gonna move and change. Podcast off the rip. Draft guide, so legit. Fantasy world, our game tight. You know we about that Chubb life. Stuck in a rut and you need some motivation. Head to the channel for this Headliner Nation.
I'm a headliner.